Hey friends, this is Derrick Broze with the Conscious Resistance Network, and today we are going to continue our investigation into Jeffrey Epstein. Specifically, we're going to talk about his new indictment, we're going to talk about the connections to Donald Trump, and lots more. But before we do that, I want to remind you guys to bookmark theconsciousresistance.com, which is our website where you can get all of our content, all of our latest up-to-date reports, vlogs, interviews, etc., including a new article from Isaac Lindberger, who's our recent contributor. And of course, you can follow on minds.com, Steam it, Discord channel, join our text list. Stop depending on YouTube. You can follow us on YouTube, of course. And if you want to support, you can go to patreon.com/Derrick Broze to help me keep making content and keep this website and this movement alive. All right, so this morning, Jeffrey Epstein has been officially indicted. You guys already know the news. He was arrested over the weekend. This morning, just about 30-40 minutes ago, there was a press conference. I just finished watching it. And here on CNN, they're doing like minute-by-minute updates. Yeah, we have reached the day and a time. Let's take a moment to appreciate. We have reached a day and a time now where CNN, the biggest of the mainstream, is actually talking about Jeffrey Epstein. You know, not in some kind of passing format, but he is breaking news, you know, trending online. It's being covered. And first of all, the people who deserve credit more than anybody, more than journalists like myself, more than the Miami Herald, more than Bradley Edwards, the lawyer who's been fighting, are the women who have been brave enough and bold enough to come forward and speak out against Epstein, and hopefully more and more women will continue to do so. So yeah, the news that's coming out in the mainstream, honestly, not a lot of it is new. For those of us who have been paying attention to this for quite some time, they talk about Epstein molesting girls as young as 14, using a vibrator on them, saying it was for massages, and then sexually assaulting them and doing this to girls, and his New York City home, in his Palm Beach County mansion, and his New Mexico ranch, in Paris, and on his private island. This is all known. Again, this is the mainstream catching up. We're happy they're talking about it, but if you've been reporting or if you've followed my reports or seen our documentary, then most of this is known information. What is new today is that it says that prosecutors, of course, we already know they seized nude photos. The U.S. Attorney for Southern District of New York said that his office is not bound by the plea deal that Epstein struck years ago with those in Florida. Of course, we'll talk about that sweetheart plea deal, which was set up by Alexander Acosta, who is Trump's current labor secretary. Epstein faces up to 45 years in prison, which the prosecutor says is basically a life sentence. That's the maximum sentence. And I am frustrated that there's only one count of child trafficking against Epstein, one count of sex trafficking. They do have a picture of him now that they're circulating, and they're telling people, if you've been molested by this man, then call 1-800, call FBI, and help them bring more charges against him. And they're asking for him to be detained and not given a bail until the trial, because obviously he's very rich and wealthy and a flight risk. We'll find out later today, when Epstein actually hits the courtroom, what happens with that. And now the indictment itself, again, and I'll post the links to all this, the indictment doesn't really tell you much of anything new for those who paid attention and understand this. What is interesting is we know that due to this indictment, they are trying to seize Epstein's properties in New York City. I think they should seize his properties in Florida as well as his private island and all that, but we'll see where this goes. Right now it says they want to seize any of the property that have been involved in him trafficking, or been involved in any of these offenses. It says the lot of parcel or land, together with its buildings, appurtenances, improvements, fixtures, attachments, and easements, located at 9 East 71st Street in New York, New York. So they want to take his mansion from him, and let's do it. That mansion, this is for a whole nother video. I recommend you guys go back and checking out my video on Epstein and the Leslie Wexner connection. Leslie Wexner is the billionaire mogul behind the Limited and Victoria's Secret, and the Victoria's Secret fashion show, which the whole other thing is Epstein and a lot of these folks are all connected to fashion and to models, and this is how they recruit some of these young girls as well. So that's the new news. There's been a press conference. Epstein will be arraigned in court later today, and we'll find out if the judge will award him any bail or not. Now, the reason I'm titling this video Reexamining the Trump-Epstein connection is because this is something I've explored in a number of different ways. We've explored the idea, did Trump ban Epstein from Mar-a-Lago? We've looked at Epstein's Mossad connections. We looked at a lot of different areas. And so I want to revisit some of those today, especially because I noticed that this Zero Hedge article came out yesterday. Trump was the only one to help prosecute her in 2009 Epstein case. Now, it's becoming clear Zero Hedge supports Trump, so they're showing that bias pretty clear here. And they used my interview from last December, when you guys may remember I went to Florida to go report on the Epstein trial, one of the trials, and I got the interview with Bradley Edwards. And in Bradley Edwards' interview, he does say that Trump was one of the only people to help him. He says, quote, "The only thing I can say about President Trump is that he is the only person who in 2009, when I served a lot of subpoenas on a lot of people, or at least gave notice to some pretty connected people that I wanted to talk to them, he is the only person who picked up the phone and said, 'Let's just talk. I'll give you as much time as you want. I'll tell you what you need to know,' and was very helpful." And the information that he gave, and gave no indication whatsoever that he was involved in anything untoward whatsoever, but had good information. That checked out, and that helped us, and we didn't have to take a deposition of him in 2009. So that interview I did back in December of last year is now turned into a Zero Hedge article now that Epstein's in the news again, and that's brought a lot of new subscribers. You guys may have noticed the numbers going up on the channel again. Thanks to everybody who's subscribing and watching the videos. Pretty much everything we've done on Epstein is popping right now. But I decided, you know what? So many of you Trump supporters are coming in after seeing this interview and saying, "Oh, this proves it. This proves that Trump is innocent." And so I thought it was let's revisit this connection. And so here are the main connections that I've found, and we'll go through each of them briefly. The connections between Trump and Epstein. First off, the proximity in Palm Beach, the Mar-a-Lago club, which is Trump's club, golf resort, and Epstein's home in Palm Beach County as well. So that's one connection, right? Obviously, that doesn't really mean much, but we're starting out at the most basic. They have a proximity to each other. They live in the same area. One of Trump's most important clubs and resorts, which he's called like the Summer White House or the White House of the South or something like that. I can't remember what it was, but it's a place that he visits fairly often, and he's been visiting for decades. And Epstein's home are pretty close. I've been to Epstein's home. I've been to Palm Beach and driven by Mar-a-Lago. They're within 10 or 15 minutes of each other in the same area. So that's one connection, right? That doesn't prove that Trump is involved in pedophilia, but that's a connection, right? So then we also have Trump's friendly quotes about Epstein as recently as 2002. And we know that the charges on Epstein are between 2002 and 2005. It says from at least in or about 2002 up to including 2005, Jeffrey Epstein was involved in all this stuff in Manhattan and in his estate in Palm Beach, Florida, to engage in sex acts for money. So then we have this well-known New Yorker interview, Jeffrey Epstein, International Money Man of Mystery. This is from October 28th, 2002. That same time period when Epstein was already molesting girls. And Trump says, it says here, Epstein likes to tell people that he's a loner, a man who's never touched alcohol or drugs, and one whose nightlife is far from energetic. And yet if you talk to Donald Trump, a different Epstein emerges. I've known Jeff for 15 years. Terrific guy. Trump booms from a speakerphone. He's a lot of fun to be with. It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. No doubt about it, Jeffrey enjoys his social life. So there you go. You have that quote that plenty of people pull out. So that's a second connection. Trump in 2002, which again is during the time period where where he's been accused of molesting these girls, Trump is still calling him a terrific guy. So I'm just trying to put together a timeline here as we go forward. So there's that quote that a lot of people use. And of course, there's the pictures of Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump together. It doesn't really seem like they just knew each other in passing. And then you have Trump's black book, Trump in Epstein's little black book, which we know that the little black book, for those who have seen my documentary, the little black book was released by Epstein's butler, his like private guy who helped out in all kinds of different areas, Rodriguez, who revealed that there was a lot of important names in there. And we know now from the court records and from the other unsealed records in other cases that Epstein would label everything as massages. So he'd have names of the girls and it'd say massages. And in his black book, he had all these famous people. Now, being in somebody's little black book doesn't necessarily implicate them. Epstein had lots of names in there, but as I was saying, before, it is an indication of relationships, right? And so he didn't have just one number from Trump. He had 14 different numbers, including his his personal guard and all kinds of different things. So there is a relationship that's there that we can establish. And I just want to point that out. And we do know that Epstein, according to court documents and according to Trump, according to Epstein's brother Mark, he did fly on the private plane at least once. I've also seen it reported other places that there were 2 flights. So for those of you out there who keep saying that Jeffrey Epstein did not fly on Epstein's plane, that's just not true. This is documented in court records. It's documented by Epstein's brother himself. Now, what happened exactly, we don't know. But we do know that he's listed in the book and that he's flown on the plane. All right. And another big connection here, Alexander Acosta's sweetheart deal. Alexander Acosta, of course, was the U.S. attorney in Miami and Palm Beach. And then he was nominated to the labor secretary in 2017 by Trump. This is something that we covered here on The Conscious Resistance in our documentary, Bringing Down Jeffrey Epstein, in October of 2018, prior to the Miami Herald's investigation. I just want to make that clear. We covered that first, and for anybody else who was paying attention, it was out there. It says a series of investigative stories by the Herald revealed that Mr. Acosta was personally involved in the negotiations. They did not reveal that. It was already known, and myself and others have revealed that. Acosta, though, met privately with one of Epstein's lawyers, who was also one of Mr. Acosta's former colleagues. In subsequent weeks, prosecutors from Acosta's office gave Epstein's lawyers an unusual amount of control over the terms of the plea deal. He said, "Thank you for the commitment you made to me." Mr. Epstein's lawyer wrote in a letter to Acosta after the meeting, noting that Acosta had assured him that he would not contact any of the identified individuals, potential witnesses, or potential civil claimants. So basically, Alexander Acosta promised Epstein's lawyers that they wouldn't tell the victims what was going on until after the deal was made, which would prevent them from being able to stop it or prevent it in any kind of way. So Acosta is just this crappy dude who's been involved, and he helped craft, along with the case lead's prosecutor, Marie Villafana. Basically, they helped him craft this deal. They helped Epstein get this good deal. Now, since Acosta has come into office and his Senate confirmation hearing and another hearing, he was questioned about this. He claims that, he was under harassment from Epstein's lawyers and that they did the best they could do. But I don't buy that. Now, so that's a huge part of the whole story, is that Trump then appointed Alexander Acosta after Acosta gave Epstein the sweetheart deal. So do you follow me? Epstein gets a sweetheart deal in 2008 from Alexander Acosta, who's an attorney in Palm Beach. Trump is in that area. Then Trump comes into office and gives Alexander Acosta this sweetheart, his own sweetheart deal, and puts him in labor secretary, which, by the way, labor secretary is supposed to be involved in human trafficking and pursuing trafficking. So that's kind of an interesting connection. Trump so far has refused to discuss why he gave Acosta that position and, what connection to Epstein that has. But we'll wait to see. Now, then there's this claim about Trump kicking Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago, which, again, I have pursued this claim, including in this interview that Zero Hedges put out, where I interviewed Bradley Edwards. And not only did he say that Trump is the only person that helped him, but when I asked him if it's true that Trump kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago, he said he also tried to look up those claims but couldn't find evidence of them. Now, it's interesting, though, to me, because in other stories I've seen that Edwards, right here, this is from Washington Post, Trump barred Epstein from Mar-a-Lago, quote, because Epstein sexually assaulted an underage girl at the club, according to court documents filed by Edwards. So Edwards filed court documents claiming that, but then in an interview with me, he told me that he couldn't confirm that as well, and that he chased it down as far as he could, and he couldn't confirm that. And I've already done a separate video where I look at those claims, which come from James Patterson's book called Filthy Rich, which focuses on Epstein. And James Patterson is an author who also lived in the Palm Beach area, who was neighbors of Epstein. He claimed he hated Epstein. He wanted to expose him. But then he also is out there doing a book tour with Bill Clinton, who is obviously tied to Epstein and implicated in the whole thing as well. So I don't really know. And I think that those claims are just, there's not very strong evidence for this idea that Trump or one of Trump's managers kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago because he found out about this. Because again, I'll refer you back to this quote in 2002 where Trump's making it clear that he knows that Epstein likes beautiful women, including women on the younger side, and that he enjoys his social life. That was in 2002, October 2002, while the indictment says that Epstein had been involved in molesting girls since at least 2002 up till 2005. So in the same time period that Trump gives Epstein this, real nice quote and says he seems like a good guy, Epstein was molesting girls already. And maybe throughout that time, Trump became aware of this, or if he wasn't already aware of this after flying on the private plane and after being associated with this guy. Because that's the thing is, look, all these Hollywood people, the Prince Andrew, all these politicians that were connected to Epstein, it's not like it was a secret. It was an open secret that people knew what he was up to. So if they're claiming ignorance now, I'm not sure I buy it. And I would be suspicious of anybody who does openly just swallow that tale. So I would say on this is still not proven that Trump kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago. And it is important to acknowledge that Trump has also been accused of rape elsewhere, connected to Epstein and by other women. So the whole claim about Trump being involved with rape with Epstein came from one of the women, Katie Johnson, and I've talked about this in another video. And of course, with Katie Johnson's claims, she was being represented by a lawyer, Lisa Bloom, who was connected to the Clinton campaign in some ways. So there's, it's not clear-cut evidence. Maybe that was politically motivated. But it's not like that was the only time Trump's been accused of rape and other things. Now, again, being accused of something doesn't mean it's factual. Anybody can come up. I've been accused of all kinds of crazy things over the years, and that doesn't mean that they're true. So that's why you have to have an investigation. I'm just saying it's not unusual to think that Trump could be tied to Epstein and everything going on because of Trump's history. Now, also, Zero Hedge wrote this article in 2017. Fusion GPS, who was behind the whole Trump-Russia P-tape thing, tried and failed to link Trump to Jeffrey Epstein. And you can read this article yourself, but basically they just interview some of the journalists who tried to push the idea of a close relationship between Trump and Epstein. And he says, I failed to nail him. Trump's ties were mild compared to Bill Clinton's. So that's interesting, and I do think Clinton, we know he flew on the plane 22 times. We know that they have a big relationship. But those of you who are still stuck in the left-right paradigm or you think Trump's a hero, you're not going to hear the truth one way or the other. You're just going to keep blaming the Clintons and the left wing and ignoring the fact that the criminals are on all sides of the political parties and that Trump is part of the swamp. You could let's say that even if this whole thing with Trump is not clearly connected to Epstein and he's not involved in this, let's imagine that. Well, Trump is still expanding the surveillance state. He's still dropping bombs in other countries. He's still increasing drone bombing. He's still militarizing the border. He's still putting banksters and oil cronies into power who are, overturning protections of the environment. I mean, there's on and on and on that we could go that prove Trump's not a good guy. So in this one case, we don't have clear evidence yet that ties Trump to being connected to the pedophilia. He was friends with the guy. As I said here, he's got friendly quotes about him. He was in his black book. He gave the attorney who gave a sweetheart deal, he gave him position of labor secretary, and they lived near each other. And there are accusations of rape, but we still have no clear, concrete evidence. So I don't know. I just wanted to point that out. I'm not ignoring the Clinton connections, but the reason many of us are focused on the Trump-Epstein connection is because Trump is president. Clinton's not president anymore, guys. Quit obsessing over them. Yes, I hope they're all brought to justice, but the reason we ask questions about Trump is because he's in office right now. Last thing I want to note, this is just a quote from Julie Brown, who is the journalist from the Miami Herald. She says, I felt a lot of pressure. Needless to say, these are very powerful people, and I think that they're sweating a little bit, especially today. We don't know how deep this went, how far-reaching it went into the government, but there have been lots of names that I could see on these message pads on a regular basis as part of the evidence. These message pads where they would call and leave Epstein messages such as, I'm at this hotel. Why do you do that unless you're expecting him to send you a girl to visit you at your hotel? So there are quite a few important people, powerful people who are sweating it out right now. We'll have to wait and see whether Epstein is going to name names. And then on Sunday, Julie Brown tweeted, and I think this is where it's most important and where I want to end. I know there's a lot of praise on here for the Herald and myself, but I have to say the real heroes here were the courageous victims that faced their fears and told their stories. Absolutely. And the women who choose to come forward are the heroes because they've faced threats. They've faced Epstein's lawyers. They've faced people out there, including some of you idiots on YouTube saying, oh, these are just slut, money-hungry young girls, blah, 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 just stupid stuff. And despite all that, these women are coming forward and speaking out, and I'm very thrilled at that, and just applaud them. And I'm going to continue to keep my eyes and ears on this until we get more information. If you want to help me get to the Epstein trial, today Epstein will be arraigned in court. We'll find out whether he's going to make bail, and then we'll find out what the future is of this case. And I want to be in New York City reporting on this trial throughout the whole thing to make sure that we get all the details. So please help me get there. Help me expose this. If you want to donate, visit patreon.com/Derrick Broze. You can also donate crypto. You can donate via the PayPal link below the video. And until next time, remember, you are powerful, you are beautiful, and you are free, my friends. Peace.